In the ruthless world of martial arts, there has always been a fine line between tradition and spectacle, between the discipline of true combat and the theatrics of those who only pretend to wield real skill. Some of these so-called masters carry themselves like emperors of the fight game, strutting with exaggerated confidence, boasting about secret techniques, and dazzling gullible crowds with circus tricks dressed up as combat. They claim to channel mystical energy, knock down opponents without touch, or rely on outdated rituals of false grandeur. But when arrogance meets reality, when these clowns step into the ring with professionals who have spent years bleeding, sweating, and training for survival, the truth is revealed in the most brutal way imaginable. Their fraud collapses instantly. Their fake mastery is ripped apart, and their delusions are punished with the unforgiving fists, kicks, and elbows of fighters who represent the raw essence of martial arts. Take, for example, the Wing Chun master who stepped into the ring, convinced that his rigid stances and flashy strikes would intimidate his opponent. From the moment the bell rang, he puffed his chest and tried to project dominance. But the pro across from him stood as still as stone, unfazed by the theatrics. Then came the storm. A sharp jab, a crushing right hand, and suddenly the clown's face paint of false confidence was knocked clean away. He staggered, fell, and by some miracle, managed to stand again. But miracles don't last in a ring ruled by reality. Moments later, the professional ended the charade, sending him crashing into unconsciousness. His circus act was over, and the crowd knew they had just seen the price of arrogance. This wasn't an isolated incident. In China, fighters like Chen Shihan became legends not for titles or belts, but for exposing frauds. Known as the Reaper of Fake Masters, Chen devoted much of his career to proving that martial arts cannot survive on fantasy alone. When a so-called Wing Chun master dared to face him, the result was inevitable. Chen absorbed the flashy kicks and ridiculous poses, then cut through them with the simplicity of pure striking. A few clean punches, and the faker collapsed in defeat. The lesson was simple. No amount of ceremony can withstand the power of practiced violence. The humiliation didn't stop in China. The plague of fake masters spread into Kazakhstan, where a pretender named Somol John Okarovich dared to model himself as the next Bruce Lee. He strutted with all the arrogance of a man who believed his rehearsed theatrics could stand against trained killers. But his opponent, Hanada, saw through the facade. From the opening seconds, Hanada dragged him into deep waters. Every wild strike the faker threw was countered, every pose exposed. Within moments, Hanada slammed him to the ground and locked in a choke that ended the fight as quickly as it began. The crowd roared, not for the master, but for the executioner who revealed the truth. Then there was the Tai Chi master who believed his slow, graceful movements could overwhelm a young Thai fighter. Tai Chi, a practice often associated with fluid, meditative motions, became a clown show the second he tried to weaponize it. The Thai fighter needed only a few strikes to expose the absurdity. Punch after punch rattled the fake master until he looked less like a warrior and more like prey caught in a trap. Pinned to the ropes, he absorbed a barrage of punishment before crumbling in defeat. Years of lazy pirouettes couldn't protect him from the fists of a true gladiator. What makes these stories even more grotesque is the rise of so-called no-touch mastersmen who genuinely believe they can summon invisible energy to knock out opponents without even landing a blow. These charlatans take the con to new heights, manipulating crowds with stagecraft and actors who fall at their command. But when such a fraud finally stepped into the ring with a professional fighter, the results were comical. The pro, refusing to play along, closed the distance and landed one clean punch. Just one. And the master who had boasted about mystical powers was sent crumbling to the canvas. His no-touch myth ended with the undeniable reality of Tucha, his fist to the jaw. The embarrassment continued as Kung Fu and Wing Chun masters tried to test themselves against kickboxers, MMA fighters, and boxers. One by one, they were dismantled. Xu Zhaoyong, an MMA fighter known for exposing frauds, faced a cocky Kung Fu master determined to prove the strength of ancient techniques. From the opening exchange, it was clear the master's punches were empty poses. Shu blasted through them with elbows, each one cracking like a hammer against brittle glass. Within minutes, the fraud's will crumbled, and he surrendered like a coward, unable to endure the punishment. Others tried to rely on theatrics, flipping and twirling like acrobats. But real fighters don't respect circus acts. A Thai fighter silenced one such clown with a single high kick that dropped him flat, his soul seemingly kicked out of his body. Another pro boxer demolished a cocky Wing Chun pretender with a single punch, proving that skill honed in real combat will always dwarf the hollow boasts of pretenders time and time again. These fake masters reveal the same tragic flaw: arrogance without substance. They believe that reputation, tradition, or mystical fantasy can carry them through. But martial arts at its heart has never been about smoke and mirrors. It is about survival. It is about preparation for the moment when there are no shortcuts, no excuses, no audience willing to fall for a trick. When fists fly, the frauds crumble. And each time they do, they remind the world why true fighters dedicate their lives to discipline, conditioning, and reality. The spectacle of these humiliations has become its own genre of entertainment. Crowds gather not just to see a fight, but to watch arrogance meet its deserved downfall. These masters walk in with pride and leave with broken spirits, their myths shattered by the undeniable truth of combat. It is theater in its purest form, clowns punished by warriors, illusions destroyed by reality. At the end of the day, every punch that lands on a fake master is a reminder of what martial arts truly is: not a stage trick, not a mystical illusion, but a brutal and beautiful discipline forged in sweat and sacrifice. And when frauds step into the ring, they don't just lose, they serve as warnings. Warnings that in this world, arrogance is dangerous, fakery is fatal, and reality will always win. So the next time you see a so-called master boasting about powers that defy belief, remember the faces of those who came before them, the ones who swaggered into the ring with pride and were carried out in defeat. Because in the ring, the truth always comes out. And the truth is that clowns don't belong among warriors. If you enjoyed this brutal look into the fall of fake masters and the rise of real fighters, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more stories of combat's rawest truths, and let us know in the comments which fight exposed the biggest fraud. This is boxing. Game and reality always wins.